Over 2/3 of the league has at least 2 wins through 4 games of the summer 22 season. And the guys are here to break down all the action. Week 4 featured a ton of good matchups, including a finals rematch. We're going to start there. Welcome to the Week 4 postgame show. Tim, Cesar, and Ryan. You'll be hearing from them in a second. We're going to break down the games, preview Week 5, which is a little smaller slate because of the holiday, and then clear up some controversy with some of the spreads on the podcast. PJ and Dan Ruggiero like to get me in trouble. I didn't do anything. The hell did I do? Let's jump into it with the game of the week, guys. Lob City and the Werewolves. Again, you guys can give me a thumbs up. They probably can't even see you right now. I know how to pick the game of the week. Head nods. Thank you. I know I do. Werewolves and Lob City lived up to the hype. Of course, we're going to get there about how Lob City didn't have their entire team, but still, being right is being right. Lob City does hold on and win by 3. We're going to break down that game, 62-59. So yeah, I mean, Werewolves had 5 guys, so that's kind of been their thing this season. And so did Lob City. So I think that played a huge factor in this. But Heston made a 3 from a very similar spot to where he did. And I think I even showed you guys the highlight in training of that snap story where he got fouled on that 3 in the finals. And it was a very similar spot where he ended up making the 3 down by 4, I'm pretty sure, to cut it to 1 with like under 30 seconds left. And so even Cody Crawford admitted after the game, got a little scary, even for himself. He was like, still up in the air at that point. Lob City makes their free throws and they escape with the 3-point win. We will go to Cesar first. We'll get him in on this. So, you can touch on Lob City, but even the end of that game, what'd you see and kind of what was the difference for Lob City to be able to get the win?
Yeah, so I think to start, like you said, Lob City, usually they come with a full team. They're like 8 or 9 people deep. So it's really, they can get a lot of people because they can get a lot of people rest, excuse me. And, wasn't sure if you can hear me. So yeah, they can get a lot of people rest, and just them having 5 players, I think maybe they weren't entirely sure how they were going to kind of run a rotation to get people rest, but to also, make it a competitive game. And that's something that the Werewolves definitely took advantage of since they always only have 5 players. It was a great game. You definitely picked the right one for the game of the week. It came down to the wire. When in the first quarter, when the Werewolves were up, I really wasn't expecting that. And then, like at halftime, Lob City kind of took the lead there. But yeah, it was a great game, and Cody Crawford did a great job with 23 points, shooting 47% from the field. And also Nuri Mohamed, probably butchered that, but I actually thought that he did a great job not only playing, but I felt like he was being like a great leader during the game. He was very vocal throughout the whole thing, and he was setting the tone from very early in the game, how he wanted the game to be played. It was a physical, competitive game.
Yeah, for sure. And so, even looking at some of these stats, I mean, Brian Heston stuffed it as usual, only 2 for 11 from 3. So I'm sure he would have liked a couple more of those to go to kind of keep his team in it, and, more than they already were in the second half. 23 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 steals for Heston. So, that's like normal, as you guys have seen here through 4 weeks. Cody Crawford, 23 and 12 rebounds. Colin Burns kind of just doing his thing, but only, 7 for 21 for Colin, which normally I think that's a huge factor. Normally the way he plays, attack, that field goal percentage is usually going to be higher. Nuri Mahmoud, exactly right, 11 points, 8 rebounds. And it's sometimes just because he's a bigger body and he plays like a bigger body, some of his impact on the game doesn't always show up in that box score, but that presence down low. And I think that was one of the keys. And I kind of want to, I know the other 2 weren't on this game, so we'll get to them in a second, but kind of going back to Cesar really quick, like, I know that was going to be a huge factor. The Werewolves aren't the biggest team. Lob City has some size. No Jose, no Victor Cashew Jr., no Greg Holt, notably for Lob City. And so how were the Werewolves able to overcome that size difference? Because Colin Burns, we touched on all of them, right? Colin Burns, Nuri Mahmoud, I mean, even Josh Smith, they're bigger. They play bigger. So how were the Werewolves able to stay in the game despite the lack of size?
Yeah, well, the Werewolves, they, like, yes, Brian Heston, he's always going to come out and he's going to put up like a full complete stat sheet, but the Werewolves they can shoot. The whole team, they can really pass it around and make some buckets. Gino Forte had 16 points and Joe Palazzo had 11. And usually number 12, Jared Ganser, he only had 5 points, but he can shoot. He can pull up. And I think if he didn't shoot, he shot 1 for 7 from 3. I'm not sure what he usually shoots, but I know it's better than that. So if he made, let's just say, 2 or 3 more threes, it's a completely different game. So the Werewolves, like, they're a good team. They got a lot of ballers on their team.
For sure. And so, again, 2 teams that we hope we'll get to see play again. That's for sure, especially after that game. So Lob City improves to 4-0. The Werewolves 2-2, and we have 5 teams at 2-2. So that's just a log jam there that'll hopefully figure itself out. But Lob City, one of the 2 remaining undefeated teams. We're going to get to the 2 winless teams that entered week 4, and that means one team had to get the win. So there you go. So we're down to 1 team without a win. Lincoln 18ers do come out on top over Bogy Kicks. Thank goodness they scored 14 points each in the 4th quarter, right, guys? I know it was low scoring throughout and took, some back and forth for both teams. Again, 51-44. The Lincoln 18ers get the win. I know we'll go to Tim first on this one. Coming in, I knew it'd be a close game. I'm glad it was a close game. What was the key for the Lincoln 18ers? And I know I go to that a lot, but especially in a game like this where, both teams have struggled, putting it lightly, and the Lincoln 18ers, I think not even so much. And, they almost had the Duje's boys in week 1, if we remember, and it was a close game. We were, weren't really expecting that. I wasn't. And so they come in 0-3 after playing well. And so Tim, how were they able to get the win?
Yeah, so for the Lincoln 18ers, I really think it came down to the strategy they had of limiting Bogy in transition. Lincoln, you there's no bonus in this league, so you can foul as much as you want to stop people in transition, and that's what Lincoln did. Yeah, it was a very, very slow first half, 23-23, but Bogy, I feel like Bogy always has that one quarter where like they just can't score. And a lot of things I saw was DePina and Chase Banks, who was a new player this week. We're just driving into traffic and either turning it over or kicking it out to a shooter who inevitably missed. So I just think they need to diversify their offense a little more, because what they're doing now isn't really working too much, just giving David and Chase the ball and saying, make something happen. I think they need to see a little more off-ball movement to get some more things going for them.
Yeah, and so, even just looking at some of the stats quickly on this game, I mean, 3 for 25 stands out to me from 3 for Bogy Kicks. We'll get over to Ryan in a second to even touch on, what he saw was the key. And, Brendan Reddington and Jason Madwed led the way 10 points each. So balanced scoring, even though not a lot of scoring, balanced scoring for the Lincoln 18ers. Every player had at least 4 points. So there you go. And there's 7 of them. So, they're coming at you with all different types of players. But Ryan, what'd you see over there in this matchup?
Yeah, I think that the Lincoln 18ers, they've adopted this defense where it's like a diamond basically, and so they're able to stretch out to the 3-point shooters in the corner and stuff like that, and still have at least one guy in the paint to guard that. And I think also what was important was that Ethan Cloutier, after going 0 for last week, was able to hit 3 shots. So that was definitely and especially since we talked last week about how, like, if he had made some shots, they could have had a chance to win that game. So they could technically have 2 wins if he didn't, go 0 for last week. But being able to knock down some shots and help the team with scoring wise, and then that defense, I think, was a big part of the win.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like we talked about, the Lincoln 18ers get their first win, and Bogy Kicks looks for their first win next week. We're going to preview those matchups coming up. Let's go to the next matchup here. So Rhode Island Warriors and the halfway Crooks. Let's get to the spread conversation. I don't make the spreads, damn it. So again, I'll point you to PJ, and then PJ will very politely point you to Dan Ruggiero, who's not even at the game. So there you go. But that's from our Low Post podcast. You guys can check that out wherever you listen to your podcast. They set week 5 spreads, or the next week spreads, and they'll be setting spreads for week 5. And even Dan was on Twitter this morning, which is Tuesday morning, so the day after the games, like, no one's perfect. Like Vegas isn't perfect, neither am I. But he shared with us his whole, offensive efficiency rating, and he's dropping stats all over the place, and I was coming up with his rating. So that's where that comes from. But I know one thing, Gian Avendician's favorite color is purple because the kid couldn't miss. And it's the Rhode Island Warriors 82-74, taking down the halfway Crooks. Both of those teams are now 2-2. So there we go. And that's kind of, the Rhode Island Warriors have won 2 in a row, I'm pretty sure. And the halfway Crooks have lost 2 in a row. So let's kind of break down how we got there. Of course, I lived it. But again, I think it was 5 or 6 threes in a row for Gian in that third quarter. And, the Crooks were able to match him, but it was matching 2s with 3s. Despite all that, it was within a 2-possession game multiple times in the fourth quarter, and down to 1 or 2, or maybe 3 in the final minute and a half. But it was, the Rhode Island Warriors without Kevin Figueredo. And so again, a team you would think, and this is one thing we talked about before we came on the air, right? A team that you would think, because of their lack of size without Kevin Figueredo, would be struggling to rebound, would lose that, especially against a team like the halfway Crooks that has a Jeff Winchell. They were in it. I'll let you guys get to the stats, but they were even rebounding with the halfway Crooks. So that's a huge thing. They made, 13 threes, guys. So we can go to Cesar again on this one on court one, but the shooting stands out to me. But again, a really good game between two teams that, are right there in the mix for sure as we get to the playoff time. Cesar, especially in that fourth quarter, we'll go Rhode Island Warriors first. You can get it out of the way if you want to talk about Gian, right away. I'm in, right? But even besides him, you'll tell me how many points he had, but some of the other players really stepped up.
Yeah, so, I want to start with this game it was closer kind of than what I thought it would be. No offense, Joey and halfway Crooks. But there were a couple points in the game where I was looking at the score and it just kind of seemed like the Warriors were running away with it. And then I would look back and it'd just be like a super close game. And that happened a couple of times. And then, like you said, like in the fourth quarter, it was just like, it was a super tight game, like 1-2 possessions that really altered the way of the game. And yeah, Gian, obviously he went off, he had 41 points, but I think it would be disrespectful to the Warriors to say that he did carry the load, but to say that they didn't play well, because no one else shot below 33%. And I mean, that's not terrible on 6 attempts. Like everyone was making their shots, what they were putting up. It just happened that Gian went on a 3-point hot streak and just didn't miss for like 5 straight minutes. Like that'll help a team win. But it was, like I said, it was a really good game, and there were points where I'd be like, oh, like they're gonna run away with it. And the halfway Crooks, they would just storm back and make it a super tight game. So I thought it was a really entertaining game on both sides.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about the Warriors, especially when we get to some of those questions at the end of the show about, what team to keep an eye on, a matchup next week, all that good stuff. So not to shift the conversation to the halfway Crooks, but a promising thing for them is being able to kind of battle back multiple times, right? Kind of just like Cesar said. And so that's what I'll throw to Ryan. You can take it from either angle, right? What did the halfway Crooks do to kind of battle back? What did the Rhode Island Warriors stop doing that allowed the Crooks to battle back? What happened in those moments where, again, so right before halftime, it was 11, 12, or 13 points ish. And then I believe at halftime, it was single digits again. And I know the math is there, but we'll get there. And then I know in the third quarter as well, Gian's hitting all those shots, right? And it's on the verge again of getting up to 15, 16, 17, and was never really able to get there. So Ryan, again, either way, right? What did the Crooks do? What did the Rhode Island Warriors stop doing during those stretches?
Yeah, I think what the Crooks did was that they kept their composure. I think having Jared Hansen as your point guard, he's able to, when he senses a lead, like a game potentially slipping away, he's able to step in there, get the team under control, and he played a huge factor in getting halfway Crooks into that single digit, cutting the lead to single digits at halftime, and then bring them back. And especially in that fourth quarter, he had an and one that I think cut it to a point, maybe 2, or tied it, which was, and you could see how excited he was. He let out a big "let's go," And so I think his presence and just that he's been there before, he's played before, and he knows what he knows how to control a game. And I think that was important for the halfway Crooks and allowing them to get back into the game.
Yeah, and that will definitely be important going forward for that team. Hansen, 24 points, 4 threes. So again, that's kind of, where he's been able to be really good this season. And Freeman led the way with 27. We get down to Gian, just to give you some stats, 41 points on 15 of 29. So you'll take that, for a field goal percentage perspective, and then 7 for 18 from 3 for Gian. So, if he's going to make 7 threes, he's going to have a huge night, and you're going to notice he's out there, right? We looked up last week just to kind of dig the dagger in the halfway Crooks, 1 for 11 last week, right? So we'll find out if that's, an aberration from 3 for him, or if it's somewhere in between these 2 days, but he shot it really well in week 4 and deserves credit for that for sure. 41 and 8. Hachi, a mini 21 and 21 points, 5 made threes, and again he seemed to hit him on those kickouts from Gian, right? So we were just talking about the Lincoln 18ers. Bogy Kicks was kicking it, and people were missing shots, right? So that was a key for the Rhode Island Warriors. Gian was doing his thing, and then when the defense did collapse, he had people hitting shots for him. So again, both of those teams are now 2-2. Let's kind of go to that 9 o'clock game, and we'll save the lone blowout. Yeah, the lone blowout for last. Only one margin of more than 9 points. There you go. Math on the spot. See, I can do it all. Duje's boys in Sin City. Duje's win by 9. I know everyone kind of saw this game, but it was tied at 50, like we talked about. I think Yarcy was asking us after the game, what was the run at the end of the game? So it would be a 9-0 run for the Duje's boys to close it out. A couple threes from Vinny Volpe, kind of when they were down 2, I believe. He hit one and they got a steal. He hit another one, right? So they go from down 2 to up 4 in that scenario in the final couple minutes. And you can see Sin City, we talked about a team who had been there before, or Jared Hansen, who's played in games before. This was a classic of Duje's, just never really, and I'll let you guys talk, never really losing their composure, right? We're good. We're down 4 with 5 to go, no problem, right? It never got really bigger than that, because then it gets a little tricky, but battled back. They missed a lot of shots. And then, that's for sure. I think we can all agree on that. And I think they'll admit that. They had a lot of open looks and missed them. And of course, they didn't want to do that last week, right? They saved all their misses for this week. But despite all that, win by 9, take down Sin City. Sin City now 2-2, I think. Either way, Duje's boys. Yep, 2-2 for Sin City. Duje's boys are that other undefeated team, 4-0, and we'll get to them taking on Lob City next week in a second. Tim, because you haven't said anything in a while, let's get you back in here. Duje's boys, but especially that fourth quarter, if you want to focus on that. I talked about composure. I know I stole the show, right? Composure, Vinny made some shots, but what else happened that allowed them to get the win?
Yeah, so the fourth quarter was definitely a different game for how it was going in the third. In the third quarter, it looked like Sin City was kind of going to run away with this one. Devin Pena went on a run. Justin Titsworth hit some big shots. And in the fourth quarter, we saw this DNA from Duje's boys. Late in games, they execute. I think their small lineup, it's a really good adjustment they have when Shane Patrick's out of the game. Guys like Vincent Volpe and John Coutu, they have to guard the bigs like Javon Morris and Devin Pena. And I know I saw John Coutu manning down in the paint, trying to cover Pena down there. It takes a team effort to stop guys like that, and they definitely did that. My stat of this game is 6 offensive boards for John Coutu, and they were big. He did not have the best scoring game or shooting game, but he still finds a way to make an impact and get his team wins.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, as we have the stats on the screen here. But, Coutu, 11 points, 2 for 10 shooting, 2 for 7 from 3. So, obviously he made some free throws, but nothing besides threes went down for him. But 6 offensive rebounds, yeah, huge. And, timely, right? So we talked about them not being able to make a lot of the shots they would normally make. Well, one way to kind of overcome that is to get those offensive rebounds. And that's what he was doing. But yeah, Coutu, Tartaglia plays a little bigger than he might look, at first glance. And especially, Vinny Volpe from last week playing against Winchell and the Crooks. This week taking on the big bodies of Sin City. They hold their own with that small lineup. It is, I'm pronouncing it the lineup of death. That's for sure. They deserve that. I mean, Lob City is going to have their own lineup of death, but this is for sure. And we saw it in week 3 against the Crooks. Really, really proved to be successful when they go Volpe, Yarsi, Tartaglia, and Kutu. And then we saw it again this week. So it doesn't matter the size difference, right? They have that lineup in their back pocket, right? And they can go to it down the stretch of a game. They can go to it in a second quarter when things aren't going so well, and the run's going to come. And so it says a lot about them. And, we're going to get to that matchup because the true test against size will be next week against Lob City, right? Not many teams have the skill and the size like Lob City does. Before we get to next week, and I will get back to you guys. This is a huge game, and we'll get to Cesar, then we'll go to Ryan as well. But Cesar, I'm putting you on the spot with Sin City. So, 4 guys, they had 1 sub, but I know he didn't, play a ton, and Garen, but, what did Sin City do well? Because, they held Duje's boys to 5 points there in the third quarter. And then even in the fourth, we talked about it. They had a lead. And so, if you had told me coming in, Sin City would have a, 4-point lead with 5 to go, you would take it if you're Sin City, right? So how'd they get to that point? How were they able to get that lead?
Yeah, so I actually really like Sin City. They have the number 1 Devin Pina and who's the other big? Which number is he?
Javon Morris.
Javon Morris. Yep. They're big. They're not small bodies. So when they utilize them like the right way and when they're playing well, they're kind of dangerous. And I know that even Sin City, they didn't have a full lineup. They were missing a couple of people. So with what they had, I thought that they're, playing really well. And like you said, it was a 50-50 point game at one point. And it just looked like the momentum was really swinging their way and that they were going to be able to pull off the upset. But I don't want to take away from the fact that Sin City is a good basketball team. And I really think that they're a better team than what they're playing right now. But they really got to, kind of put the league on notice. Yes, they lost, but they didn't go out quietly. They definitely fought every minute of that game. So props to them.
Yeah, for sure. And Ryan, I'm not a liar, so we'll go to you. Duje's boys, I know we talked about Volpe, right? What was another key in that fourth quarter for them, or even in the game? I mean, they were able to stay in the game and kind of battle the bigs, but, give me the key for the Duje's boys for you.
Yeah, I think early on, at least, it felt like Shane Patrick was able to defend Pina down low when they would go at each other down low in the post, and Shane held his own and was able to. It seemed like disrupt Pina's game early on, and that kind of allowed Duje boys to get out early and get on that run. And obviously, we know he's a big talker, so he was able in that, and he did kind of get in that Javon Morris's head in that fourth quarter. But I think ultimately, bring Brian Yarsi. I think he started on the bench. We'll bring him off the bench of being. He played late minutes and subbing in for Shane is just a huge. He's basically just like a fifth man that is basically a starter on every other team.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's an MVP candidate on his own team, which we've seen. So that's not even a prediction. That's a fact from the past, right? Exactly right. Cool. Let's get to that last game. And so the Ozone boys get their first win. So there we go. And I know I helped make sure they were properly ranked in the power rankings coming in. And again, I like being right. So there you go. But the Ozone boys take down only the Fam 113-65. So only the Fam, after starting 2-0, again, has lost 2 games and now is 2-2. Ozone boys improved to 1-3. And I think they can join that bunch of 2-2 teams rather quickly. So that's another team that is going to be in that middle group, which seems to be nearly everybody in the league, right? I didn't see a ton of this game. So this is awesome. I know Tim was over there. Let's get back to him. What the heck happened? So we got 25-13 after the first quarter, and then a huge second quarter, it looks like, to kind of blow it open. And, Jaron Thomas did his thing, but Paul McGuire, I know I've seen some highlights, but how did Ozone do it? Because, that's a bigger margin than I thought. I know I thought Ozone would win. I'm a fan of the Ozone boys after having my history with them. They joined the league. They were all, puffing their chest out, as they still do, thinking they're better than everybody. And, I was talking my crap on the post-game show just like this, and then they proved me wrong. And so now I'm an Ozone boys fan. But what'd they do last night, Tim, on Core 3?
Yeah, this one was not really close from the start. The thing about Ozone boys, they just have a different dynamic than different teams with their ability to sub and their depth. Everyone on this team can play and dribble and shoot and pass. There's no drop off really. Well, maybe a slight drop off going to their bench, but I mean, they still have guys that can put the ball in the hoop. Um, Only the fam. They didn't shoot well, but their defense is not. Obviously, they allowed 113 points, and a lot of that was in transition. So yeah, their defense just has to be better if they're gonna be able to compete with the more top teams in the league. Paul McGuire definitely was the MVP for Ozone Boys. He did pretty much a little bit of everything. I think his poster could be the top play of the week. We'll see. But yeah, big contributions from Zach Brooks, their point guard, and Luke Hogan had a number of dunks and lob dunks as well. But yeah, I'm impressed with those boys. It's my first time seeing them, and I don't think their negative record will last. I don't.
Yeah, for sure. And let me turn this off. All right. And so, yeah, let's get to some of the week 5 matchups, guys. We're going to have you bet the house again. Did anybody lose the house last week? No, really good. All right, perfect. I mean, I'm not really checking, so you guys could be lying. No big deal. But let me pull up the week 5 schedule, and so yeah, we can have you guys. We'll touch on these matchups, and I know we're going a little long today, but that's all right. Only 4 matchups in week 5, and so again, it's like I know what I'm doing with the schedule, right? So both teams that have lost 2 in a row, the halfway crooks and only the fam will face off. So one team will not lose 3 in a row. I promise you that. Halfway crooks and only the fam. Let's do it this way. Cesar, I'm going to give you that one. Halfway crooks and only the fam. Is that all right? Head nod. Okay, cool. So just as a preview quick, what's going to be a key to that game for you? And we'll just kind of go this way and kind of touch on each one. But what's a key for the halfway crooks taking on only the fam, both 2-2 coming in?
I think one important thing that the halfway crooks, what they need to get going is spreading the ball around a little more. There's a lot of turnovers that go around with the team, and there's one player that I really like. I feel like doesn't maybe shoot enough. Number 24, Mike Wilbur. He has a 3-point shot. I love his shot.
That was your chance. What the hell is that? Me.
Well, I love his shot. He's hit a couple deep threes before, so I really think if you can get him going, it could be the difference.
Yeah, Caesar's the honest one. He's not going to suck up. I get it. I gotta pick my battles here. The other game at 7:00, we'll go right in order. The Werewolves take on Bogy Kicks. So a former player from the Werewolves, Matt Bogazian, started his own team in Bogy Kicks. They're 0-4, looking for their first win. The Werewolves find themselves at 2-2. That'll be a fun game. I know that they're like friends off the court too, so that always makes for a good game. Ryan, does that work for you? We're all right with that? Okay, well, all right, good. Just making sure, because if you haven't seen one of those teams, it's not fair to put you on the spot. But Werewolves and Bogy Kicks, besides the usual, because I expect Brian Heston, I don't care who he's playing, right? He's going to stuff the stat sheet. But even like in addition to that, what's kind of the key to that matchup? Bogy Kicks, can they get their first win?
I think that will be a tough test. I think the big part about Bogy Kicks is that like the Pina, he likes going inside, he likes getting those dunks and those layups. And when you have Brian Heston standing in the middle there, that's going to be a tough task. So I think so that will be that if Bogy Kicks can get some outside shooting, maybe they'll be able to keep pace with the Werewolves. And I think for the Werewolves, it's does other people can they have 5 guys so that they can make a sub at least, and then also like do others show up and make knockdown shots to help Brian Heston, because that will be important.
Yeah, and so I might have mentioned it before, and I'm really not even trying to like rub it in, but we talked about the long shooting. I mean, Bogy Kicks just went 3 for 25 from 3, right, against the Lincoln 18ers. And the Werewolves, I mean, I was talking to Jared and Jeff Winchell before our game, is like the Werewolves just play defense. Like even against Lob City, you could just see it. Like, so they're younger, and I know we're all young, right? But they're younger compared to other teams in the league, and they're just like constantly playing defense. And they may not be the biggest team like we've talked about. They're not, they may not be the most athletic team, and now they're going to hate me for saying things like this, but whatever. They move their butt, right? They're playing defense the entire game, and you saw it against Lob City. And so against Bogy Kicks, going from playing the Lincoln 18ers. Right now, they're, not that they don't play defense, because now I'm catching myself where I'm going to have to diss somebody, right? But now they get a Werewolves team that is going to play defense for sure for the full game. So we'll see how that one goes. We're going to save the obvious game of the week, and we'll let you all touch on that one. Can Tim, with a head nod, do Warriors in Sin City? Is that going to be all right? We'll figure it out with the Warriors. Okay. Cool. He doesn't seem too confident, but we do have the Rhode Island Warriors taking on Sin City. Both teams are 2-2. So we got a couple of 2-2 matchups in week 5. Tim, the key to that one, again, we'll go besides the obvious Gian Avendisi and not missing from 3. I mean, that's a key every week to give you a good chance to win. But what else are you looking for in that one?
Gian, of course, is a big part of it. I mean, I'm looking to see, I consider Taj Eddington one of the best defenders of guards in the league. I'm interested to see how he does on Gian. Also, I'm excited to see if Figueiredo shows up this week. The matchup between him and Devin Pina could definitely be a significant one to look out for. Pina, he didn't have his usual stat line this week. I think he might come out a little hungry next week and really put the ball in the basket. I think this should be a really close game, and I definitely matchup of the week.
Yeah, and it would be if we didn't have the showdown. So 2 undefeated teams. One of them will not be undefeated after week 5. The Duje's boys take on Lob City, and that'll be at 8:00. So that'll be the game of the week. Nice and easy. We'll break the news now. We can go Cesar, Ryan, Tim. We'll let you guys all jump in there, even if you keep it short, but you guys are doing great doing that. Anyway, the key for you in that one, as we get a possible finals, they haven't played in the finals. They have not. So that would be the first time they meet in the finals, but a finals preview potentially. Cesar, what's the key for you in that one?
Well, I think to keep it simple, I think the key for Lob City is if they need everyone on their team to show up, because Lob City and Duje's boys, they're 2 of the deepest teams in the league. So being able to get your starters some rest and then get some valuable production from off the bench for both teams, I think that's going to be huge. And whoever gets more production from their bench is, I think, going to be the winner.
For sure. Ryan, your key in that one?
Yeah, I think it will be how does Lob City match up with that death lineup of the Duje boys when they sub in, and I think that for stretches of that game, that will be a key determinant of who will ultimately win that one.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, go right ahead.
I'm interested to see how Duje's is going to handle Jose Mercado, just because they've handled players with size, but Jose Mercado, he's kind of like a different animal in terms of that. Also like Ryan said, I'm interested to see how their small death lineup is going to look against that. I'm also interested to see how Shane Patrick's going to look against bigs like Nuri and bigs like Jose and bigs like Colin Burns, guys that are really hard to handle.
Yeah, for sure. All right, awesome. And so let's go the same order. You just get to make a pick. So you're saying just the team name, Lob City or Duje's? Cesar?
Lob City.
Okay. Ryan?
I'll take Duje's.
All right. And then I'm behind on the screen. All right, so we got one each. Tim?
I'm taking Lob City.
All right. So two for Lob, 1 for Duje's, and that's good. That's good. That's how you know it'll be a fun time. Between the other games, and again, keep it semi-short, then we'll get out. I changed my mind. I'm going to give you a different question, then we're going to get out. We're going to save the picking of the games for the podcast. So they will pick each game. They'll give you spreads, all that good stuff. We picked the game of the week. That's good enough. Let's do this. We will stick in the same order just so you guys have some time to prepare. So Cesar gets the hard job, but he didn't want to suck up earlier. So that's the position you find yourself in. As far as the question, let's go with your team. So obviously not the 2 teams in the game of the week, but your team that you like to be that number 3 seed. So who do you think basically out of those teams that are 2-2, or I guess we could throw the Ozone boys into it, and no one's mathematically eliminated from getting that 3 seed yet, but even sticking to those 6 teams, right? What team do you think right now is the 3rd best team? Let's do that. What team right now through 4 games is the 3rd best team? Cesar?
Well, I'm gonna stick with it all year. I think Sin City is the third best team. I don't think they're playing as well as they could be, but that's a team right there. I really like them.
Perfect. All right. I love it. And then Ryan. So yeah, what team is third best right now? So not because things are going to change, right? You know, the schedule is going to play a factor and all that stuff, but who's the third best team right now?
I'm going to take the Warriors because I think Gian's playing at an MVP level. He's definitely one of the best players in the league. I think when you can carry a team like he has for most of the season, and seeing as they haven't had Kevin Figueredo, they've only had him for a couple games so far. Hopefully he can come back and help that team. I think that will be big for them.
All right, Tim.
Well, luckily, I'm also going with a different team. I think the Werewolves are the third best team in the league. I just think their problems come down to subbing and getting tired. I really think they have the talent to compete with everyone. They just went head-to-head with Lob this past week, albeit missing players. But, I mean, still impressive to go head-to-head against Lob. They don't play many close games. So, yeah, I've been impressed so far with Werewolves, and they're my third best team.
Nice. All right. That means it's a good question. If we got 3 different answers, that means from that log jam, we just didn't mention only the fam, halfway Crooks, the Ozone boys, and I guess technically the Lincoln 18ers are over there listening like, guys, we're 1-3 too. What the heck is going on? So they get left out of the conversation as well. You know, I don't know if anybody cares. You guys know who my pick is for the third best team. So we can, we'll have that conversation another day. Guys, good job on the show this week. Week 5, we're getting there. Oh, wow. Halfway through the season. All right. And then we got some playoff action. So for Tim, Cesar, and Ryan, I'm Joey. Good job on the postgame show. We'll see you guys after the 4th of July for week 5. Thanks for watching.